Thank you so much for being here today for the second annual State of the Schools presentation. Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce, Bill, for sponsoring and hosting this event, and to First Shore Federal and Comcast for your generous sponsorship for this important gathering. Whether you are an elected official, a community member, a business leader, a parent, or an interested citizen, your presence today speaks volumes about the strong partnerships that we have forged in our community to support and enhance our school system. Your steadfast support through the good times and the very challenging times means so much to me and to our entire school system, more than you can imagine. I do want to take a very brief moment to speak to these challenging times in which we find ourselves. I'll speak to this saddening situation, and then I will focus on the good, our bright future, because that is what we're here for today. Imagine 2022. So very briefly, the arrest of a James M. Bennett High School guidance counselor based upon his alleged egregious abuse of minors has devastated parents, staff, students, our board, and our community. As a school system, we do everything within our power to prevent such acts from occurring, and we will continue to do so because the safety and the well-being of our students is first and foremost in our charge, in our mission. Those of you who know me well know that open communication and transparency is of utmost importance to me. So I have found myself not only devastated by what has occurred, but more than frustrated by the legal restrictions on communication on matters like this. We persevere by reminding ourselves that the outcome of a thorough investigation of these matters is what is most important. To allow the investigation by law enforcement and the state's attorney to find the truth, and for that truth to lead to fair and just consequences is what matters the most. Those outcomes will impact the health and well-being of our students and of our school system, and I am confident that because of our resilience, our school system will ultimately weather this storm. As I indicated to parents in a school-wide phone message and to students and staff via the all-school television broadcast, I know from personal experience that through an all-hands-on-deck support approach, the school community will remain JMB strong. Thank you for your understanding that I will not speak to personnel matters, nor will I interfere with the ongoing investigation by making any further comments. I can only assure you that criminal or inappropriate behaviors that impact the well-being of our students will not be tolerated in Wicomico County schools. Thank you for your outpouring of support and for your continued confidence in our school system. My vision for the future of Wicomico County schools is as steadfast and as vivid as ever. We are resilient, and we have so much to be proud of and to look forward to. That strength and resolve would not be possible were it not for the leadership of and the outstanding relationship that I have with our Board of Education. I'd like to acknowledge their support and ask that they stand and remain standing while I introduce each one. Please hold your applause until I've introduced all of them. Board Chair, Don Fitzgerald. Board Vice Chair, Jean Malone. Board members, Alan Brown, Michael Murray, John Palmer, Ann Sothowski, and David Gosley was unable to be with us today. We wish him the best in his continued recovery. Research shows, thank you. Research shows that a strong relationship between the superintendent and the Board of Education is a driving force in the success of a school system. Clarity of roles and strong communication is critical, and I feel so fortunate that we are one team. Thank you. I'd also like to ask members of the Wicomico Public School System staff who are with us today to please stand and be recognized. Without an outstanding leadership team, we could not be making the progress that you will hear about today. And I too want to acknowledge Chef Hilligas. I believe they've probably, Chef Hilligas and his students. Thank you so much for the wonderful meal, and to the students who were willing to come in on their day off from school. I'm so happy that we were able to showcase their talent with you today. So today I present the state of the schools once again through the lens of Imagine 2022. As with any strategic plan, we begin by understanding the context, followed by a review of our progress towards goals. Those two elements make up the 2017-18 annual report. And then we renew or expand upon short-term strategies to make additional progress towards our goals. Then we determine the resources that we need to implement the plan. So today I'm going to take you through this continuous improvement model in presenting the state of the schools. And finally, I'll leave you today with a very brief but exciting look a little further into the future. So we begin with the context. Last year I quizzed you on the context, and I was very impressed with your knowledge about the school system, but allow me to just very briefly remind you of some of the data that we must consider and is important in understanding as we examine our operation and how we plan for our future success. Enrollment continues to grow. We're still just under 15,000 students, but we're one of 14 systems in Maryland that grew in enrollment from the previous year. So we continue to grow. Our demographics, here you see how our student population breaks down by race. Our targeted populations, very important piece of the context that we consider. It's especially important that we review the needs of these populations that the state identifies as targeted populations. Those include special education, students who receive free and reduced meals, and students who are English language learners. Our special education population has remained constant, pretty constant. Our free and reduced meals population has increased slightly, and I'm talking about from last year. What you see here is a comparison from 2004, so you see the dramatic increase. What I'm speaking to right now is from last year. But our English language learner population is the population that has grown dramatically. We're up to 8% of our population now. We have 30 languages spoken by over 1,100 students across our system. A quick look at food services and transportation. Well over 2 million meals were served last year, and almost 2 million miles driven transporting our students to and from school. A little bit about our staff. As the third largest employer in Wicomico County, we have approximately 2,300 full-time staff and a total of over 3,000 employees when you consider part-time and contractual employees. And make note of the education levels that include all staff members, including administrators, teachers, and support staff. Quick look at school construction. I want to say thank you this afternoon to County Executive Culver and the County Council for what you have done in terms of school construction, your support for school construction, and what we've been able to accomplish, and what we're looking forward to. As you know, we opened West Salisbury Elementary School this year to a very appreciative community. And we're looking forward to our continued plans for a new Beaver Run Elementary School. And again, appreciate County Executive Culver supporting our full request for funding in the FY20 Capital Improvement Plan in his recommendations to the County Council, including $9 million for Beaver Run Elementary School. And a little further into the future, we continue to look forward to what lies ahead for Mardella Middle and High School, whether it be a systemic renovation or an expansion, renovation, new construction at that school. All of that is still being considered. In terms of finance, there's so much I could say here, but what's important to note is almost 3/4 of our general fund budget goes to instruction, exactly where it should be spent. I would encourage you, if you're interested in knowing more about our financial operation, that you visit our transparency portal on our website. A wealth of information is there that's available for your review. A few comments, additional comments about student achievement data that's not specific to Imagine 2022, but that plays an important role in the context through which we plan for improvement. State assessment scores are steadily rising. Advanced placement opportunities are extensive. SAT is now given to every student, and our scores remain strong. We're pleased with our school's star ratings from this year, considering multiple indicators, and it always astounds me the amount of money offered to our seniors for their plans beyond high school. Last year, that figure approached $18 million. So now that you've been provided with the context within which we are operating, we move to the next section of our strategic planning, specific now to the annual report, and that is our progress towards goals. How are we doing with those goals set last year at this very event as part of Imagine 2022? You'll recall that we established 3 priorities. So I want to review those priorities, progress towards each goal one at a time. So goal number 1 was to increase the percentage of students who enter kindergarten ready to learn from 33% in 2016 to 38% by 2022, as measured by the Kindergarten Readiness Assessment. As you can see, that percentage increased dramatically to 47% for students who entered in the fall of 2017. Now, we were cautiously excited. In fact, I may have even mentioned it here I'm trying to remember the timing of that release of those data, but we were cautiously excited about that dramatic increase. And rightly so, as we now know, that 41% of our students who entered our kindergarten classrooms this year, that'll be part of next year's annual report, 41% of our students who entered our kindergarten classrooms this year entered demonstrating ready to learn. The figure still represents overall tremendous progress in this goal, already exceeding our original mark. And we continue to see that students who attend pre-kindergarten in our classrooms outperform those whose experience is at home or in informal care. 53% in our pre-kindergarten classrooms ready to learn versus 16% of students whose prior care experience was at home or in informal care. So what are we doing to make this progress? Just to highlight a few things. With the support of an increase in funding above maintenance of effort last year, we were able to increase opportunities for pre-kindergarten enrollment. And through the generous support of the Wicomico County Education Foundation, who presented us with a check in the amount of $45,000 at a board meeting last fall, we were able to equip pre-kindergarten classrooms with technology packages utilized by teachers and students to support high-quality instruction. And I do want to take a moment to recognize, any members of the Education Foundation who are with us today. I know the chair of the board, Susan Purnell, is with us. Mike Dunn is with us. Are there any other members? Erica and Melanie, yes. And Robbie, yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Please stand and be recognized. Jamie, sorry. Please stand and be recognized because I'm missing you. So, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. So we're very focused on the assessment data from the Kindergarten Readiness Assessment. making adjustments to curriculum and instruction based upon the needs of our students, data-driven decision-making. We've increased parent communication, engaging families as partners in addressing school readiness, and we've worked in partnership with child care providers to assist in their professional development on instruction that leads to school readiness. So I'm very pleased with our progress on Goal 1. Moving on to Goal 2, to increase the percentage of students who enter grade 9 and graduate 4 years later from 82% in 2016 to at least 87% in 2022, as measured by the 4-year adjusted cohort graduation rate. Now, unlike the KRA, the Kindergarten Readiness Assessment results, the official graduation rate always lags behind from the Maryland State Department of Education. In fact, we're told we're not going to receive last year's graduation rate until March. But last year, just like this year, I was unable to share with you the rate from the class of 2017. Last spring, we were pleased to see that our rate increased to almost 84% for the class of 2017. So it's certainly progress towards this lofty but critically important goal, and we anxiously await the official graduation rate for the class of 2018. So what are we doing to continuously make progress towards this goal? Strategies that we believe have had a direct impact on the progress that we're making in this area include an increased emphasis on non-traditional graduation pathways, such as the expansion of evening high school, summer school, our credit recovery program, online learning opportunities, understanding that a growing number of our students require non-traditional approaches to earning a high school diploma. We've also added homeschool liaisons in our high schools to work with families of students who've been identified most at risk of dropping out of high school to provide needed supports. And finally, we've focused on early intervention and support for students who repeat the 9th grade, such as guided study halls, creative scheduling, including early identification for enrollment in career technology education, all based upon the expansive research identifying 9th grade success as a huge predictor of graduation from high school. In addition to those strategies, we've also employed strategies that will take a bit longer to see the benefits. You will recall last year that I asked you to imagine a future in Wicomico County Public Schools, including a variety of academies and signature programs allowing students to attend programs based upon their interests. As planned in Imagine 2022 this year, we added our first signature program in the county, the Next Gen STEM program at Salisbury Middle School. That program, which includes the nationally acclaimed Project Lead the Way Gateway Middle School curriculum, has been extremely successful this year and prepares our middle school students to advance to our high school Project Lead the Way engineering program if that's an area of interest for them. And this year, we've added an interactive media program as well as a performance theater program, and both are fully enrolled. I predict that programs such as these will have an impact on our graduation rate in the long run. So we look forward to continued steady gains in this goal area. Finally, Goal 3 looks to decrease the 3-year average turnover rate of teachers from more than 20% in 2016 to at most 15% by 2022 in our efforts to recruit and retain a high-performing workforce. In terms of recruitment, we've initiated local job fairs, including efforts to recruit at historically Black colleges and universities. We've had increased collaboration with Salisbury University and the University of Maryland Eastern Shore in addressing critical shortage areas, and we've continued to expand our own Teacher Academy of Maryland program in each of our high schools, where in our efforts to grow our own teachers. In terms of retention, since 2016, we've expanded communication with beginning teachers, responding to feedback that they are providing on their experience in Wicomico County schools. And I'm pleased to share with you our progress in turnover rate as seen in this graphic on cumulative percentage of loss. Let me take a minute to explain this graphic because it took us a while to figure out how to display this so that it would be most easily understood. We measure by cohort of teachers. So if you look in the first 3 bars, that is the cohort of teachers who started with us in 2015. And it shows you for that specific cohort of beginning teachers what happened in each of their first 3 years of teaching. So you can see that at the end of their first year, 14.85% left us. At the end of their second year, that same cohort, at the end of their second year, 23.76% of those teachers left us, and it remained static for the third year. We're attributing most of that to the fact that teachers earn tenure in their third year. But take a look at the the teachers who started with us in 2016 and were following that cohort. So at the end of the 2016-17 school year, that cohort of beginning teachers, 9.8% left us. And as we follow that cohort to their second year, it only grew to 12.11. And then we start the third cohort, those teachers who started with us in 17-18, where we decreased again. So if you follow the arrows, you see the tremendous progress that we're making towards our goals in this area, that critically important area of keeping teachers here with us, that consistency for our students. So I think that you will agree, I hope that you will agree, that we've made steady progress towards the 3 goals that were identified. And you'll see this progress outlined in the 2017-18 annual report. Not only do I see progress towards those goals, but I also see evidence of our strength and our goodness every day. Let me share with you a few examples. We have amazingly talented teachers and support staff in Wicomico County. Salisbury Middle School teacher Tara Elliott was awarded the 2018 Christine D. Sarbanes Teacher of the Year Award from the Maryland Humanities Council. Family and Consumer Sciences teacher Emily Shank at Pittsville and Bennett Middle Schools was recognized as the outstanding teacher in middle school in the Financial Education Awards program. And James McCroby, he was named by the Maryland Society for Educational Technology the 2018 Outstanding Educator Using Technology. Congratulations, James. David Miles and his 15 Project Lead the Way seniors were recognized as Project Lead the Way pioneers. Joan Cooper, James M. Bennett High School English teacher, was named the Educator Luminary, a Light of Literacy Award by the Friends of the Wicomico Public Library. Pittsville Elementary and Middle School custodial staff, under the leadership of Building Service Manager Mona Lisa Price, earned the Governor's Citation for Superior Maintenance of Schools. Dave Harner, Supervisor of Secondary and STEM Initiatives, received the June E. Streckfuss Leadership in Education Award from the Maryland Business Roundtable for Education. Melinda Damaris, teacher of the visually impaired, received the Distinguished Educator of Blind Children Award from the National Federation of the Blind of Maryland. And to highlight just a few of the noteworthy accomplishments of our students, Pittsville students Jonathan Lombardo and Aiden Williams had their Maryland egg design featured at the 140th Annual White House Easter egg roll last April. 8 Destination Imagination teams advanced to the 2018 Global Finals. And Mini Marvelous Marshmallows from North Salisbury won 5th place in that global competition. North Salisbury Elementary student Savannah Brooks, now at Pittsville, won the first National Kindness Speech Contest. Our Robotics Club VEX team qualified and competed at the VEX Robotics World Championships. TAD students, that's Thinking and Doing, from North Salisbury Elementary were presented with a citation by Governor Larry Hogan for drafting a bill to declare an official Maryland Spotted Turtle Awareness Day. And you will recall that I noted last year that Parkside student Joshua McKelvey won the National Gold Medal in Electronics Technology at the Skills USA National Championship. Josh made us incredibly proud once again last year when he won that national first place award for the second year in a row. Just incredible. And our system and our schools continue to be recognized for our good work. Just a few things. Parkside's Future Farmers of America chapter of our Career Technology Horticulture program ranked #1 in Maryland in the FFA National Quality Standards Award program. Prince Street, North Salisbury, and Westside Intermediate Schools received Maryland Character Education Schools of the Year awards. And Prince Street was named a Let's Move Active School National Award winner for the second year in a row. And Fruitland and Westside Intermediate Schools were recognized as new Maryland Green Schools by the Maryland Association for Environmental and Outdoors Education. And at the system level, not only were we once again recognized by the National Association of Music Merchants as one of the best communities for music education in the country, but we were also presented with the Flame of Excellence Award by the United Way of the Lower Eastern Shore. And those are just a few of the many, many awards received by our students and staff in our school system. We do have so much for which to be proud. All of these things are evidence that we are a good school system. But is good good enough? I believe not. In Jim Collins' work, Good to Great, he says that greatness is not a function of circumstance. He tells us that in creating a good to great transformation, there's no single defining action, no grand program, no single innovation, no single lucky break, no miracle moment. He tells us that the process instead resembles relentlessly pushing a giant, heavy flywheel, one turn at a time, building momentum until a point of breakthrough. He tells us that once you fully grasp how to create this flywheel momentum and apply that understanding with creative intensity and relentless discipline, you get the power of strategic compounding. And once you get your flywheel right, you want to stay with it for years. Decision upon decision, action upon action, turn by turn, each loop adding to the cumulative effect. Jeff Bezos and his executive team at Amazon engaged in this flywheel concept. They used the flywheel concept to articulate the drivers of their business. It went like this. Lower prices led to more customer visits. More customers increased the volume of sales and attracted more commission-paying third-party sellers to the site. That allowed Amazon to get more out of fixed costs like the fulfillment centers and the servers needed to run the website. This greater efficiency then enabled it to lower prices further. They learned that by feeding any part of the flywheel, it would accelerate the loop, building momentum. So what are the elements of our flywheel? Our flywheel has as its center Imagine 2022. Understanding that moving from good to great does not come from any single innovation or defining moment, but rather through the building of momentum, through energy and discipline, our flywheel does just that. We look at what's working to create the compounding effect of Imagine 2022. Our 3 priorities: to recruit and retain a high-performing workforce, building that momentum to increase third graders' reading level with a specific focus now, as you know, on kindergarten readiness, and increasing our graduation rate. And we clearly recognize that our flywheel involves more than our strategic decisions. It involves the community. So as we build our momentum, we are attracting parents and businesses to our schools and to our community. And in turn, that's strengthening our economy. And in turn, we hope that that means investing more in our public schools. And the momentum continues. I already feel that momentum. And I've told staff that with the support of the community, we stay the course. As Collins indicates, we know that when we change course because we expect a quick fix, we don't make progress. And when this happens over and over again, we fail because of chronic inconsistency. Just as importantly, we don't mindlessly do the same things over and over again. But through the goals and objectives of Imagine 2022, we expand and extend where appropriate the strategies where we're seeing elements of success, little by little. As a wise man once told me early in my tenure, I need to go for the singles rather than looking for one big home run. Thank you, Brad Gillis. So what are our plans to increase the momentum of our flywheel? What does Achieve 3.0, the next iteration of Imagine 2022, have in store? But before we examine our own flywheel in greater detail, I have a treat for you. I would like to introduce you to Hayden Scrimger. Hayden is a student at Bennett Middle School, and she will be accompanied by Dr. Jeff Baer, our Supervisor of Fine Arts, for their rendition of Imagine.
No need for greed or harm.
Thank you so much, Hayden, and thank you, Mrs. Grimger, for being with us and bringing Hayden. Hayden, your willingness to come in on a day off and stand before this crowd of people, that very much appreciated. Hayden represents the budding talent that we have here in our school system. And again, we appreciate you being here. And she helped me drive home this point that we're going to stay the course through Imagine. So let's give Hayden one more round of applause. So let's take a look at Achieve 3.0. You know that our flywheel began with the collaboratively created vision points. Those vision points continue to guide our work, and from those vision points, we stay the course of Imagine 2022 through Achieve 3.0. Priority 1, staying the course, is aimed at increasing on-grade level reading by 3rd grade through our very specific goal to increase kindergarten readiness. We know that research tells us that children who aren't proficient in reading by the end of 3rd grade are 4 to 6 times more likely to drop out of high school, and the consequences beyond that often stretch well into adulthood. And we also know that the formative first years of life are unquestionably important, that what happens to children during those very first beginning years of life greatly impacts their brain development. So during those critical years, children who don't receive the stimulation and care that they need for a healthy development, many of those children never catch up. And it requires us as a school system and a community together to employ extensive interventions, both academically and behaviorally, to assist them in catching up to read at this on grade level at this important juncture of 3rd grade and beyond. So again, we stay the course. We continue our efforts to increase access to kindergarten. So I'm pleased to announce that for the coming year, we will again increase access to pre-K in the school system through anticipated pre-K expansion grant funding from the state. Through expansion grant funds, we will increase the percentage of students who have access to high-quality pre-K in our school system. Additionally, we will continue to work with families and with local daycare providers. Our efforts are not about building a monopoly on pre-kindergarten, but to ensure that our students who enter our kindergarten classrooms are ready to learn. Most importantly, this year, we recognize the need to increase the success of those who are enrolled in our program by addressing the social, emotional, and behavioral needs of our youngest students in order to ensure their success from an early age. The number of children with significant social, emotional, and behavioral needs entering schools across the country is on the rise. And Wicomico County Schools is no exception. Not only is the number of students needing support growing, but the severity of their needs is increasing and manifesting at a much younger age. Research shows that children with mental health needs that go unaddressed are much less likely to achieve academically and are at greater risk of involvement in the criminal justice system. Improving social, emotional, and behavioral supports not only helps the students who are experiencing such challenges, but also helps all children and adults in the school by creating a safer climate for all and an environment more conducive to teaching and learning for everyone. So I'm pleased to announce our intention to increase supports for social, emotional, and behavioral needs of our students through programming and staff, including additional social workers, can't talk today, and school psychologists. So as you envision a future for Wicomico schools, not only should you imagine all students having access to high quality childhood instruction, early childhood instruction, but imagine that those students have the social, emotional, and behavioral foundation to achieve at higher levels, and imagine an improved climate for all students and staff. Continuing our efforts through Imagine 2022, once we have that solid foundation in place, I am confident that that will greatly impact our graduation rate in years to come, but we recognize that there are more things that we need to address between early childhood and graduation from high school. We are making progress in our graduation rate, but that data point is more than just a number on a bar graph. It represents individual students who are successfully reaching that important milestone, but it also reflects groups of students who may not be receiving the resources they require to ensure that they too are successful. As we examine those data and we look at our demographics, including the targeted populations shown earlier, we recognize that our English language learner population is growing dramatically at a rate that was not anticipated. So as part of our strategies this year, we are re-examining how best to meet the needs of our English language learners. We're meeting with leaders from these communities, and we're exploring new ways to better support these students in reaching success and ultimately graduating from high school. And as part of Goal 2, I'm also pleased to share with you that our emphasis on the mental health needs of our students will not only assist with our youngest students, but will be addressed in our middle and high schools as well. As noted, when we address these needs, all students and staff benefit. Therefore, we plan to add programming and staff to address this area of need across all segments of our pre-K to 12 population, again, so that we can better support an environment conducive to learning and to teaching. And to support the momentum of our flywheel, we will continue to provide students with increased opportunities for engagement in relevant curricular pathways that prepare students for future careers. For next year, we are pleased to expand our successful Next Gen program at Salisbury Middle School by adding another 50 students from across the county to that program, expanding that program for next year to 100 students. And as our flywheel builds momentum, we will be persistent in our focus on non-traditional pathways to graduation. And I'm pleased to share with you that because of our strong collaboration with Dr. Ray Hoy at Warwick and his leadership team at Warwick, next year we will expand our early college program in computer science. We anticipate growth in that program, and we're exploring additional early college programs where high school students can complete an associate's degree at the same time they're completing their high school diplomas. And as we have been, we will continue our commitment to a strong offering of dual enrollment opportunities for all of our students. Just imagine in 2022 and beyond, expanded programming based upon student interest in career pathways, expanded services to address the social, emotional, and behavioral needs of our students, and extensive options for non-traditional pathways to graduation. Now we come to our third priority, the priority that supports and is the underpinning for all that we do in our school system, a high-performing workforce. I'm so pleased with the progress that we're making in this area as shared earlier, especially in our ability to retain our beginning teachers. In this component of our flywheel, we continue with that momentum to support our staff through salaries, benefits, mentoring, high-quality professional development, and responding to feedback received in our recruiting efforts, as well as our supports, as well as the supports provided to new teachers in our county. We hear from our teachers that when students enter schools with significant mental health needs, their ability to teach is compromised. And certainly with the added strategy to address the mental health needs of our students as described in Goals 1 and 2, those additional resources will no doubt pay dividends in our ability to recruit and retain a high-performing workforce. By increasing our efforts to address the social, emotional, and behavioral needs of our students, we will be creating an environment where teachers are better able to do what they're hired to do, teach. Not only are our continued efforts designed to support our teaching staff, but I'm pleased to share with you that the board and I are committed to fully implement the recommendations provided in the salary study by the Management Advisory Group to bring our support staff salaries in line with comparable markets. Our support staff is an integral part of our operation, and their behind-the-scenes work is unquestionably important in achieving our goals. Just imagine the benefits to our students that will be gained through our efforts to recruit and retain high-performing teachers and to appropriately compensate our support staff. So I continue to be very excited about the future of Wicomico schools. I feel the momentum of our flywheel, and we will continue to push with creative intensity and relentless discipline. We will persevere, understanding the power of that momentum to compound over time. As Collins notes, decision by decision, action by action, turn by turn, each loop adding to the cumulative effect. We recognize that cumulative effect not only on the success of our school system, but on the health and economic vitality of our community. So what do we need to implement Achieve 3.0? What support do we need for the plan to continue to build the momentum of our flywheel? Well, we need to view public education in Wicomico County, as I've spoken to before, as an investment and not an expense. So how do we invest in our school system? We invest through support and advocacy, and we invest through funding to implement the plan. Let me say once again how grateful I am for the way in which the community has embraced Imagine 2022. Imagine is more than a strategic plan. It represents the system's commitment to ensuring that all students excel, and your support and engagement with our schools and our school system demonstrates that you share in that commitment. But I remind you that once again, that investment also means financial commitment. And we have started to see that realization through funding from our county leaders for both operational dollars beyond maintenance of effort, and as I've spoken to earlier, the ongoing support for capital improvements. So allow me to share with you some very preliminary figures that represent what we believe we need to support the plan, what we believe we will receive in terms of revenue, and the funding gap that remains. That funding gap is what we believe we need to continue the momentum of our work. It represents a very reasonable, very responsible request to support the fiscal investment in our public schools. So I'm not going to go into detail again. You've heard what each one of these involves, but in looking at the momentum of our flywheel for pre-kindergarten, we are looking at an additional estimated cost of $235,000 at an estimated cost per pupil of $16. In Goal 2, where we're specifically looking to address the social, emotional, behavioral supports and supports for English language learners and a few other things, all geared towards graduation from high school, we're looking at an estimated cost of about $1.3 million or $92 per pupil. In the third area, a high-performing workforce, this figure is rather large, $6 million, I believe. Yes, just over $6 million. That's because that includes the kinds of things that I was describing earlier, salaries, benefits, and it also includes a 5.2 increase that we are anticipating in our health insurance, or $420 per pupil. And finally, I've included this year something that's so critical to include, and that is our mandatory cost of doing business. These are the things that we have to do to open our doors. Insurance, utilities costs, funding, other post-employment benefits, a number of things that all contribute to being able to even open our doors, and that figure is about $2.3 million or $164 per pupil. Next, we considered Where can we cut? We believe that this is a very important part of what we do in order to be fiscally responsible. We need to look at what we may have at one point needed. Maybe there are areas of our budget where we can cut. We are now at just under $2 million where we believe, I'll tell you a couple of the areas that we believe that contribute to that mostly. And that is the subsidy that's in our operating budget for our food services program. Our food services staff has done an incredible job of becoming more self-sufficient, and also in our capital outlay. So we're looking at reducing our budget of just under $2 million. We're continuing to look at that at $136 per pupil. So that adds to an estimated cost for funding the plan at about just under $8 million, or $556 per pupil. So that's the need. Now let's look at the revenue that we are anticipating. So we're anticipating great state aid for next year based upon the formula, the Thornton Foundation formula, and we're anticipating about $6 million in state aid. The county maintenance of effort requirement for this year will be about $1.2 million, so the total increase that we are anticipating is about $7.2 million, or about $500 per pupil. So let's look at the funding gap. If you take the need and then subtract from it the revenue anticipated, we end up with a funding gap of about $799,000, just under $800,000, which is what we are, and again, we're still in beginning stages, what we're looking at as a funding gap that would be required above maintenance of effort, or anticipated, hoped above maintenance of effort, in order to fund Imagine 2022 for the coming year, or about $56 per pupil. So I've presented these figures to show you roughly what it would take to fund Imagine 2022 for FY20, to continue the momentum of our flywheel. Over the course of the next several months, we'll continue to be working with our bargaining groups and with the Board of Education to fine-tune and adopt a budget to present to the county council, the county executive, and then the county council. But before I end, I want to share with you a very brief glimpse at a very exciting future as part of the vision for Wicomico County Schools. As we continue to focus on Goal 2, increasing our graduation rate, we're always mindful of the importance of expanding programs in our very successful career technology education program. We are, however, limited by space at the actual Career Technology Center here at Parkside, making expansion of programs more challenging. So we look for other ways to expand, as we did this year in our interactive media program at Wicomico High School. With that in mind, I'm very excited to announce that we're entering into a preliminary agreement with the City of Salisbury to be a very small part of the planning for downtown Salisbury, specifically to develop Lot 1. Discussion is underway to expand a career technology offering, specifically a ProStart program, which is an extension of our culinary arts program with a specific focus on the service industry, the management skills needed behind the scenes. We're a few years out, but we're excited about the possibility of expanding career technology and being part of the revitalization of downtown Salisbury. And finally, I want to talk about the power of the arts. In numerous studies, researchers link involvement in the arts to better child development and higher student achievement. I've witnessed this personally and in my career. To cite some of the key findings of the research on the power of the arts, a student involved in the arts is 4 times more likely to be recognized for academic achievement than those who are not involved in the arts. Students of low socioeconomic status who are involved in the arts are 5 times less likely to drop out of school than their peers who don't participate in arts programming. And low-income students who are highly engaged in the arts are twice as likely to enter and graduate from college than their peers with no arts education. Students who take 4 years of arts education average almost 100 points higher on their SAT scores than students who take 1/2 a year or less. Arts education is not simply about training talented students to become artists or performers. An arts education has been found to result in a heightened sense of fulfillment and therapeutic release of tensions, enhanced knowledge of social and cultural issues, the development of creativity and thinking skills, stronger communication and expressive skills, and advances in social and personal development. This development of creativity or soft skills is essential in preparing students for future jobs. For example, research has shown that 72% of business leaders say that creativity is #1 skill they're seeking in hiring. Last year, I announced that we were taking the first step to an expanded arts program through the additional course offering of performance theater. And I told you that that was only the beginning of availability for the arts in Wicomico County. And I hinted ever so slightly that a performing arts high school may be in the realm of possibilities. I've continued to think about, to talk about, and to study this possibility. And my work has convinced me more than ever that a performing arts high school would be a game changer, not only for our school system, but for our community. A school for the arts can have a trickle-down effect on the provision of arts and culture to students throughout the system, culminating in higher levels of achievement. An arts high school will elevate the perception and the reality of our entire school system. It demonstrates our commitment to provide differentiated, challenging instruction to all students and aligns to our efforts in Imagine 2022, Priority 2, to ensure that students are at levels where they can soar in academic achievement. Students interested in the arts will find a learning environment where they will surely excel. And a performing arts high school not only has a positive impact on the school system, but on the community as a whole. It's a source of pride for the community and for improving the quality of life through the expansion of cultural opportunities in the community and a catalyst for economic development. Therefore, I am beyond excited to announce that I have authorized, with my board's blessing, an education specification study for a performing arts high school in Wicomico County Schools. An ed spec is a detailed study, for those of you who aren't aware. It guides the design of an education facility. It begins with the goals of the facility, and it includes spatial requirements for the program desired. An ed spec will bring us closer to understanding the budget needs for this exciting venture. We don't plan to go down this path through the normal public school construction process. Instead, we've been engaged in conversations with individuals who understand the nuances of funding this project through a public-private partnership. And an important component of this public-private partnership will be private philanthropy. And I am very pleased that we've already had a number of conversations with individuals and organizations who've expressed interest in making significant contributions to bring this project to fruition. And while we're working through how this public-private partnership could work, I am thrilled that our Education Foundation could potentially play a significant role. They too believe that this venture could be a major game changer for our community. So stay tuned and let us know if you'd like to be involved in some way as we venture down this exciting path as a community. So that's the state of the schools.